We had this past year 5,500 different personnel from over 200 different agencies participated in Urban Shield, and that includes a lot of volunteers as well. These are law enforcement, fire, EMS, bomb squads from all over the Hiwassee region, from all over the state of California, from all over the nation. We even had a team come from Brazil they're training for the Olympics and the World Cup. They came up to participate as well. What we do is we put on realistic scenarios. In this instance, we did 59 different scenarios. I'm going to go through, not all of them, but some of them, and tell you what we do. We look at the gap analysis from last year. We look at the after-action report, and we try to craft these scenarios so they're realistic, and we improve upon them every year, and the region gets better at what they do. We also look at our regional assets. We track our regional assets. We see how our equipment's working. It's not working. Do we need new things? We have a lot of public-private partners, Motorola being one. You saw some of the stuff they did in Urban Shield this year. So the overarching goal of Urban Shield is to provide a multi-layered training exercise to enhance the skills and abilities of the region's first responders, as well as those responsible for coordinating and manage the event. So one of the big things for me is, managing a protracted, sustained operation over 48 hours, takes a lot of, we learn a lot of lessons in doing that. Obviously, we follow SIMS and NIMS, and we use the ICS structure during Urban Shield. We also have to comply with the Department of Homeland Security HSEEP, that's Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation program. As we design these exercises, they all have to have a nexus to terrorism. This year we added a new component we'll talk about later, which is called the Regional Catastrophic Preparedness Grant Program. It was the mass fatality plan, and I'll talk with you more about that. So, for example, we have to test different core capabilities, and one here you see is operational communications, and the Bay Area objective is to enhance operational communications capabilities. Last year in 2012, eBricks was what we tested out. eBricks is a system we use now in Alameda and Contra Costa County. That was the first year, we validated that through the Urban Shield exercise, and now all the first responders, except for a couple cities, are using that in our area. So these are some of the other core capabilities that we look to test. Mass search and rescue. Ron Seitz, who's been our search and rescue coordinator for what, 40 years, Ron? 37, but who's counting? His team helps out in Urban Shield as well. So, how do we do this? It's funded through the Department of Homeland Security. Cal OES in the Bay Area, Hiwassee is the funding for Urban Shield. I just wanted to show you, just so you get a sense of the different agencies that participate in Urban Shield. There were over 200 this year, from local, state, and federal agencies that come out from all over the nation to help us put on this different event. So you have literally all the first responders from the region participating in this one exercise. So these are some more of the cities that helped us out. That's actually the city of Foster City. I've got that wrong on the PowerPoint. All the different counties. These are some more. So you can just see it's a massive number of agencies that send personnel to support Urban Shield. Some come from outside of the county. I talk about the Hiwassee region, which represents a number of counties throughout the Bay Area. So we bring in folks from throughout the Hiwassee region, not just from the San Francisco Bay Area. These are more of the agencies that supported us regionally and more. And then these are some of the state agencies that support us over the years. We work with a number of different universities, Cal State University East Bay, UC Berkeley, Stanford University, Stanford Hospital, all participated this year. These are some more of the agencies. So these are some of the national agencies and organizations. So Boston Police Department has come out for a number of years. Unfortunately, this year they were not able to come out because of the World Series. The commissioner couldn't send, half of their SWAT team out for the exercise when they had a real world event going on. We had people from Illinois Emergency Management Agency, Travis County Sheriff's Office out of Texas, We had the Oregon Office of the State Medical Examiner come down. These are some of the federal agencies and organizations that supported Urban Shield over the past year. Amtrak's been a long-term partner with us. We host a scenario every year at the Amtrak train station in Oakland. The board actually board an Amtrak train and do an exercise. Amtrak this year was a spin-off to the validation of the region's mass fatality plan. Never before have we looked at mass death from an operational standpoint. I know it's not a topic that people like to talk about. Quite frankly, it made us a little uncomfortable to talk about it. But if you look at what happened in the Asiana Air, had that, plane, had there been a lot more fatalities, this is the regional plan, would have had to have been exercised. And so we exercised that during Urban Shield, and I have some pictures to show you that later on. Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, Sandia, is a partner of ours. Naval Operations Support Center out of Alameda. TSA, the Federal Air Marshals, we work with them for the first time this year. They're based out over in San Francisco, so we did a scenario with them. There, you can see all the different military branches are represented here. So these are the different countries that sent either observers or participants. The country of Brazil sent a large number of people. Jordan, Switzerland, Netherlands, New Zealand, Singapore, South Korea, United Arab Emirates. So these are some of our public-private partners that we work with over the years. It's really important for us. We know that as first responders, we're not going to get the job done alone, so we do try to partner with different public-private partners to, for example, in San Francisco, we were over at the Bank of America building, and we actually integrated the on-site security folks from that building into the different scenarios that we were doing. So these are more of our public-private partners and more. And I put this list just so you guys get a sense of the sheer nature of the people that are participating. And now we'll get into, so we had 36 different tactical teams. This is a list of some of them. That Boston slide is still in here. They actually didn't come out. In their place, Orange County, Florida sent a tactical team out to replace Boston. So they flew out from Florida to participate in the exercise. Travis County, Texas. A lot of these are the local teams that participated. So Richmond Police, Sacramento, San Jose, Stanislaus County, they come from all over the region, and they all tell us at the end of the event, they run for 48 hours straight, that it's the best training that they've ever received. It's the most realistic. It's the best training. In fact, the team leader from the Boston SWAT team who dealt with the suspect called Sheriff Ahern and said he knew that he could push his team for 48 hours because they had gone for 48 hours during Urban Shield the year before. So the Oakland Fire Department hosted, I had mentioned before, it's not only tactical training, but it's really all hazards for public safety. So the fire department hosted 24 different teams came from the fire departments around the region to participate in Urban Shield, and the Oakland Fire Department hosted this portion of it. So these are all the different fire departments, hazmat teams. The fire department, they break it up into hazmat, urban search and rescue, and a water rescue component, which is something they did this year they haven't done before. So these are the technical rescue teams that came down. St. Paul, Minnesota actually sent out a team to participate this year. This was a technical rescue. The water rescue is a new component to Urban Shield. The Yawasi had devoted some funds to the different cities and counties to build out, a water rescue component. There are times, we live in the San Francisco Bay Area, that they may have to rescue someone in the water. So this year was the first time that we built out some scenarios surrounding water rescue. 7 EOD, explosive ordnance disposal teams, came out to participate. This is a highly technical and specialized field, so there's not a whole lot of EOD teams throughout the region. So it's very challenging to have several teams come out to actually host it, and then several teams come out and participate in the training. But these are the teams that did come out. U.S. Air Force, Riverside County sent some people up, and the FBI and ATF helped out the Sheriff's Office, Alameda County Sheriff's Office, hosting these different scenarios. So, how we run this is we have our Departmental Operations Center. You guys saw in that video clip, that's the Alameda County EOC. You saw the video wall project that we just completed about a year ago. So that's our Departmental Operations Center that operates 24/7 during the event. And then this year we had 9 different area commands throughout 5 different counties. So we were in, we had it's a sheriff's office, we have our main EOC, which you saw a picture of, but we also test out, we have an alternate, a backup EOC that's actually stationed inside Santa Rita Jail. So we tested out our alternate EOC. Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory hosted an area command. Naval Operations Support Center in Alameda. We've been partnered with the Navy for the past 2 years, and they actually were working on a scenario. It actually similar to what happened back in, back east. Just they were developing a scenario similar to that for us, and then they had that tragedy occur back east. San Francisco PD, San Leandro Police Department, San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, Oakland Fire, and Contra Costa County all activated their EOCs to participate in Urban Shield. So these are just the listing of the agencies that hosted the area commands for Urban Shield. And we try to run this like we would a real world event. Each area command manages a certain number of events that are taking place in the field. And so that's how we run Urban Shield. So there are 28 tactical scenarios, 18 hazmat, USAR, maritime rescue scenarios, 5 EOD scenarios, 4 medical checkpoints. Stanford Medical Center actually hosted one of those for us this year. It was the first time we partnered with Stanford to do that. There is a series of physical challenges. There's clearly a direct correlation to the physical fitness of first responders and the outcomes of some scenarios. So Sheriff Ahern is a strong supporter of physical fitness, so we added some challenges in there. We looked at the mass fatality plan like I had talked about, and then we always try to do a technology showcase where we bring in some new technology that first responders haven't necessarily used before, let them get their hands on it and kind of take it for a test drive and see if it works or doesn't work. Last year, the technology showcase was a small unmanned aircraft that we flew 32 missions out at our training center. We did not, we did fly unmanned aircraft, but we flew them actually inside a hangar out at the Oakland airport because of, there's a lot of FAA restrictions relative to small unmanned aircraft. So this is a picture of our Emergency Operations Center. On the right, you see all the folks who have different vests on, which denote what their responsibilities are within the EOC. And then you see our video wall. We use the FBI's Law Enforcement Online. It's a virtual command post to manage the event. So all the different area commands report in via that virtual command post. It's a very useful, very, very useful tool for real world events. Up here, this is a GPS tracking of all the teams that are participating. So in live time, we could track them via GPS where they were at during the event. So I'll just talk about some of the different scenarios. We had a confidence course scenario. There's a Coal Canyon in Castro Valley. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with it, but they hosted a really unique challenge. And they also integrated with EMS folks. So there were paramedics and EMS folks. And we brought in it's called a Trauma FX lifelike mannequin. So the first responders, EMS folks, had to actually utilize, they had to apply real world techniques, putting tourniquets on to this lifelike mannequin. At the last minute, we added a rappel off of Glendyre Jail. We actually had to shut it down in the middle of the event because of the windstorm that happened to happen during Urban Shield. But because of the BART strike, we were going to be working in the BART's Transbay tube for a scenario. But because of the strike, we weren't able to do that. So the last minute, we held the rappel, and then, as luck would have it, the wind shut us down in the middle of it. This is some photos of the SWAT challenge. We actually, that swim there, I was a little surprised that the SWAT teams wanted to host that as a scenario. but it was really a team building event. To see these operators get out of the water at 3 o'clock in the morning, freezing cold, giving each other high fives, it's a bonding thing for them. And then that was Ron, what was that, Tyrolean traverse? Is that the proper technique for that? So there's a series of medical checkpoints that we have. There's 4 of them, and all of the operators have to stop there. They have to get assessed by competent medical staff, and they're also taught real-world techniques that they then have to apply sometime during the exercise. So, for example, in one of these medical checkpoints, they were taught how to treat blast or crush injuries. A lot of the teams have paramedics on them, so they were taught how to treat blast or crush injuries, and then they had to apply that during the actual exercise. There's a series of live fire events that took place. In this live fire, and when I say live fire, it's a live firehouse that we have out at our training facility. Because we couldn't fly the UAV, they actually perched the UAV on literally a perch, and it live streamed data to the operators before they entered the scenario. So that was just a test of how that would work, but it wasn't actually flying. The one we flew was flown at the Oakland airport in a large hangar. So there's a different technology showcase. FLIR, the forward-looking infrared, picks up the heat signature. We did a scenario with them. And then the teams also used a robot where the robot actually can go underneath vehicles looking for the vehicle-borne IEDs. So we had a land navigation course, a military installation attack in Alameda, a bioterrorism attack hosted down at the by Newark Police Department and actually Union City. And it was done at a place that does Botox, which I guess is botulism. I didn't realize that at the time, but that's some pretty bad stuff. So that's where they hosted their scenario. The Fremont Police Department had a actual scenario with EMS and firefighters all having to solve the problem together. You establish the unified command, you all get there and have to work through the challenges as a team. This is the SWAT fire EMS integration scenario. And on my left here is one of the victims, and actually that's one of the mannequins that we talked about. So this was a scenario hosted by the Secret Service. It was a dignitary protection scenario where an IED went off, and so the SWAT teams had to deal with the threat, and the fire and EMS folks had to deal with the victim. Very lifelike. I mean, they've all told us is as close to the real thing as you can get, and that's what they need to practice with. So this is more of SWAT fire EMS integration. I know Gordon talked about this. This is actually at the elementary school in Castro Valley. There's a series of different active shooter scenarios. We were at a water treatment plant in San Mateo. The Department of Veteran Affairs allowed us to host a scenario over in Palo Alto. We've never done that before. VBID with small arms protection hosted by Foster City. It was actually done at the Visa building. We talked about these public-private partners. The high-rise scenario is actually at Bank of America over in San Francisco. Lone wolf terrorist at a university. This was hosted by University of California, Berkeley Police Department. A barricaded suspect at a hospital. We worked with Children's Hospital in Oakland this year. Did a barricaded suspect scenario. We worked with the medical staff at Children's Hospital. And this was the one that we referred to, the elementary school shooting. Canine skids is a relatively new concept for first responders. It's where the SWAT teams work with the canines. They integrate as a team. It's clearly safer to send a dog in before you send a person in, or a dog or a robot or whatever, anything besides a person. But we actually outfitted the dog with a camera, and which live streamed video back to the command post. So this was a dignitary protection scenario we talked about. Hostage rescue in Hayward. This scenario is based off, you guys probably remember the Good Guys event that took place in Sacramento about probably 15, 20 years ago now. Well, one of the police officers was actually a hostage for real when he was a youngster. And that scenario was based off that real world event. And that was one of the triggering events for this person to become a police officer. Hostage rescue, or dignitary hostage rescue over in Redwood City. We worked with the Stanford Linear Accelerator. They did a scenario down there. I got a chance to tour the Linear Accelerator. That's a phenomenal place to tour. Officer rescue over in South San Francisco. Amtrak Linear Assault, which was a spin-off to our mass fatality plan I'll talk a little bit more about. And we always, an aircraft interdiction scenario. So we were at the Oakland airport where we did aircraft interdiction on a jet. And then we also worked with TSA over in San Francisco to do another scenario on a passenger jet. San Francisco Sheriff's Office hosted a series of exercises for us, including a light rail assault. Maritime interdiction. We worked with the Oakland Police Department, or Oakland Police Department and Oakland Fire Department to host a maritime interdiction scenario. And also we worked at Chevron Refinery with the Richmond Police Department to do a waterborne critical infrastructure assault where they actually went over to Chevron on a boat to deal with the problem. We hosted a series of exercises on the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge on the side that was actually shut, the old side of it, both fire and hazmat and urban search and rescue. We partnered with Sandia National Laboratory to do a rad nuke detection scenario. We used a UAV in that. We used some rad nuke detection equipment. That's something, you know, that we're learning about, something we haven't had a lot of experience with. So it was the first time we worked with Sandia to host a scenario like that. This is an armed encampment raid, series of EOD scenarios, which I've already kind of talked about. That's just a video, or excuse me, a couple photos of this is the EOD operator putting on the bomb suit, and then there's an explosion they had to detonate. So some of the fire scenarios they worked on, a mail truck hijacked on the Bay Bridge, actually tipped a truck over on the Bay Bridge and had to solve a hazmat problem. And then as soon as they solved that, they had to rescue people off the Bay Bridge. So they did what's called a high angle rescue off the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, where they lowered, a firefighter was lowered down to the victim, and they actually lowered the victim to a boat below, and they rescued the victim that way. They were at East Bay Mud, investigating suspicious letters at Franco Gawa Plaza. Flammable liquid tanker truck. They actually brought in a liquid tanker truck and did some exercises out at the Peralta Community College. They tipped the truck over on its side. It's a prop truck. It's not the real thing. Clandestine laboratory, VBIDs, rocket-propelled attacks on a digester cast dome. That was at East Bay Mud in Oakland. Clandestine laboratory. They brought in a rail car. There's only 2 rail cars in the nation that are able to simulate these different releases of different chemicals, and so they were able to bring in that rail car, and these teams were able to test on that. And not a lot of them get that opportunity to do things like that. Odor investigation of a leaking shipping container. So this is just a fire hazmat scenario on the Bay Bridge, just so you can get a glimpse of it. I'm sorry, it's not that, it's hard to see. High angle rescue off the Bay Bridge we talked about. Low angle rescue, which was a vehicle that had gone over a hillside. They had to rescue the people from that vehicle. Trench rescue, a confined space rescue. Here's a couple photos of the high angle rescue off the Bay Bridge. This is a firefighter going over the side of the Bay Bridge. That picture was actually taken by Reuters International, who came out to cover the event and did a photo spread on it. And there you see the boat below. This is the trench collapse rescue, and they used the lifelike mannequins, in that trench collapse rescue. So they had to shore up the trench, and then they had to go down and deal with the with the victim down there. They had a series, a sinking boat with a passenger on it out in the Oakland estuary, a pollution control response, shore-based rescue, boat handling, and then assessment of critical infrastructure response. So I want to talk a little bit about this RCPG, Regional Catastrophic Grant Program scenario. There were about 300 people that participated in this. We had people from Oregon come down and help us put this on. But they looked at this mass death from the operational standpoint with all of the stations that would be set up during an event like that, from the forensic odontology to the family assistance center, the refrigerated mortuaries, all of the things that you would need to utilize in a situation like this. The first responders got to see, the invocation of Corners Mutual Aid. There were people from all over the state of California that came up to see this portion of Urban Shield, and it's something we've never done before. It's the first time we've done it. So we had a series of sponsors to help sponsor the event. I'll go through these just real quickly. These are our sponsors. Motorola has been a longtime supporter. We had at the Marriott, we hosted a vendor show and a training event, and the Marriott told us the largest vendor show they've ever had at that place. It was absolutely packed. We had a training day. We had some representatives from Sandy Hook Elementary School, where the mass shooting happened last year. They actually came out and debriefed the shooting. It was not a dry eye, in the place. We could only have 400 people in. We probably had 2,500 people attend the vendor show that day, but we could only have 400 people attend the presentation. There was standing room only in there. There's a lot of very emotional, a lot of lessons learned for first responders. And then we also had some representatives from the Boston Police Department and Boston Fire Department come out and debrief the bombings that occurred there, and then the response and the manhunt that took place after that. A lot of lessons learned out there. And then finally, we have a debrief. General Wesley Clark flew in from Brussels for us to be our keynote speaker and help us host our debrief and awards presentation and things like that. So